It's day 6 as I bring you guys this update on 10 prisoners who escaped from a New Orleans jail this past Friday in the early morning hours. And at this point, there are 5 remaining fugitives. And it seems this story is not only developing, but possibly nearing an end with every hour and day that passes. One of the 5 remaining fugitives is a man by the name of Antony Massey. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but he's 32 years old, and allegedly he's the assailant who actually threatened to shank the jail worker who cut off the water, and who knows how else potentially helped to aid and abet this escape that took place last Friday. And before we go further with this escapee Massey, I want to talk a little bit more about the jail maintenance worker, Sterling Williams, who cut off the water that would ultimately help these prisoners to be able to escape. And without that water being cut off, this escape would not have been possible. You know, this guy mentioned that he was threatened. And it was Antony Massey, allegedly the prisoner, who threatened to stab him if he did not comply. There's a lot of speculation, disbelief in what this guy has shared. Why not just go to the authorities, to your proper chain of command, alert somebody? Why actually help these escapees? But as I've sat here and thought about this, none of it makes any sense to me at all. Clearly, by him cutting off the water, it's going to fall on him. Nobody else is going to take the fall for that. I had made mention that potentially there was a financial incentive. Maybe he was going to be paid to help these guys. Paid with what? These guys ain't got no money. These guys have nothing, these escapees. So this was a lose-lose situation. I don't see a rational explanation as to why this guy would willingly take part in this, unless he was in fact just that damn naive. Which leads me to believe, or more so speculate, that maybe what he's sharing about being threatened may in fact be true. Maybe he was scared, because nobody in their right mind is going to do something when the shit will undoubtedly hit the fan. And when it does, all signs are going to point back to you. Maybe these escapees and potentially Sterling Williams didn't really think this would become as big of a deal as it has. But moving on to Antony Massey, again, 32 years old, one of the older of the 10, still on the run. It seems all of the youngest prisoners have already been apprehended. The 19-year-old, the 20-year-olds, the 21-year-old. One of the guys was actually 24 as well, who's been apprehended. But not only is this Massey escapee one of the older prisoners, he's also somebody with a lengthy criminal history of previous escapes. How was this guy housed on the first floor? And without knowing, if I had to guess, I'd probably say this guy was the mastermind behind this escape plan. So when we're out here laughing and joking about this situation, because I'm seeing plenty of people doing so, saying who's going to be the last man standing here, my personal bet is on this guy, Antony Massey. Orleans fugitive Antony Massey is a 4-time escapee, raising questions about his supervision. A local provider of electronic monitors says at least one of the Orleans Parish fugitives should have never been given extended freedom of movement inside the lockup. Matt Dennis says escapee Antony Massey is a breakaway artist with a dangerous history. You're astonished that they keep this level of risk on the first floor of that jail, said Dennis, owner of New Orleans Assured Supervision's Accountability Program, ASAP. A jail maintenance worker, 33-year-old Sterling Williams, was arrested Monday on accusations of aiding the prisoners in their escape. Williams told authorities Massey threatened to stab him if he didn't turn off the water to a toilet that the inmates tore from a cell wall as part of their escape plan. There isn't an ounce of this man's history that doesn't say escape. That's a bold statement right there. Dennis says Massey wanted for rape and killing in St. Tammany Parish, also accused of domestic abuse and theft in Orleans Parish, has 3 prior escapes dating back to 2007. Dennis said his lengthy escape history meant he was no longer a candidate to be released from custody on an electronic ankle monitor if he made bond. I don't particularly think this guy would have a bond. Holy cow. Unbelievable what this guy's charges are. hyper-violent, hypersensitive to escape, and again, housed on the first floor of this jail. What do we got? Maximum security right there on the first floor. We don't feel like going up to the 7th floor where the elevator's not working. Also, in the midst of all of this debacle, I see a headline right here that says Sheriff Hudson temporarily suspends her campaign for re-election. Yeah, you can go ahead and cancel Christmas and break the dinner plate in that election. You might as well start getting that resume ready for Indeed, because you ain't about to be sheriff in these parts for much longer. If you ain't forced to resign, which is exactly what's going to happen, mark my words how this thing is going to go down. This sheriff, she's going to be forced to resign. Says that she has no plans of doing so at this moment. But best believe by the time all of this is done, she gonna be up out of that office. Massey was one of the 10 inmates seen jumping off a jail loading dock on May 16th, an escape caught on surveillance camera that was not monitored in real time. I don't think anything in that jail was monitored in real time. Talking about all of these staff members and officers that were on duty that particular night, where the hell were they all at? As New Orleans City Council members investigate vulnerabilities in the jail security system, Dennis says he's assisting police trying to locate the escapees. The minute these escapes happened, state police, New Orleans police, and U.S. Marshals went instantly into our information management system and identified individuals who wore ankle monitors, Dennis said. Dennis says that when someone cuts off an ankle monitor, he notifies the public immediately. That's crazy. Public's getting notified immediately when somebody escapes from ankle monitoring, but not when 10 violent prisoners jump off the back of a loading dock on the backside of a jail and run across 10 lanes of traffic in the middle of the night, huh? Last Friday, it took Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office more than 7 hours to realize the escape had occurred, and another 2+ hours before notifying NOPD and public after media outlets had reported the news. I wonder what was taking place during those 2 hours between the time that the jail realized and before people were actually notified. I got to imagine it was damage control. Like, hey, can we keep this under wraps and get these guys back in without having to alert the authorities? Had the public been made aware immediately upon the sheriff's office realizing 10 prisoners had escaped, would that have made a difference? Well, I got to imagine that in situations like this, every minute is precious. Coming also on day 6 of this manhunt to capture the remaining 5 escapees, 2 women have just been arrested in connection with helping these fugitives. Jailbreak update. Courtney Harris of New Orleans, 32 years old, and Corvante Baptiste of Slidell, 38, each booked with accessory after the fact to the May 16th escape. Harris is accused of being in contact by phone to assist one of the 5 fugitives still at large. Probably heard her on a jail-recorded call. Investigators said Harris was in contact with the inmate before the jailbreak and later drove 2 of the escapees to multiple locations in New Orleans while they were on the loose. Troopers did not disclose which inmate is primarily associated with Harris. That information is coming to us from Facebook. Here's the first news story that I'm running across in relation to the arrest of these 2 women. Headline that reads, 2 New Orleans area women arrested accused of assisting inmates after jailbreak. 2 New Orleans area women accused of helping inmates after they escaped the Orleans Parish Jail were arrested this week, according to the Louisiana State Police. Slidell resident Corvante Baptiste, 38, and New Orleans resident Courtney Harris, 32 years old, were booked into the Plaquemines Parish Jail early Wednesday morning on a felony count of accessory after the fact. I'm trying to tell you, anybody who is associated with trying to aid and abet these escaped fugitives, they are going to make martyrs of you. To showcase to anyone who may be trying to help these remaining 5 fugitives what could happen to you if you get caught. And it's a pretty good chance that you will. Harris is accused of transporting 2 escapees who are still on the run to multiple locations in New Orleans. Okay, so I was thinking when we first saw the Facebook post that potentially the escapees that these women were helping had already been apprehended. Investigators also allege she used a phone to stay in contact with an at-large escapee prior to the jailbreak. I wonder if it's Massey, the mastermind who I feel is probably behind orchestrating this entire escape. Investigators say Baptiste was in contact with escapee 19-year-old Corey Boyd. He was just arrested yesterday, who was found and arrested Tuesday night before he fled the jail. She also helped him get food while he was in hiding, state police said. If convicted, Harrison Baptiste could face fines up to $500 or 5 years in prison or both. You are not going to want to walk into a courtroom accused of anything to do with anything in relation to this escape. Them folks down there in Louisiana, especially the New Orleans area, they are quite hypersensitive to anything involving this. Folks, that's all the information that we have at this time involving this escape. Just wanted to bring this to you to make sure that you're aware as I attempt to keep you as up to date and current with everything in relation to what is taking place with this immense manhunt to capture these remaining 5 fugitives. And with that, I hope this was a video you enjoyed and found some interest in. If it was, please leave a like and a comment letting me know exactly what you think about all of this. What do you think is going to happen to these 2 women or that jail maintenance worker? I'd love to hear what you have to say. As always, until next time, enjoy life, the free world. Never take a moment for granted and make the most of every day. Peace!